Good afternoon, team. We have this training to complete on chemical exposure in the workplace. And since I can't be around to make it to each location, each of our 6 locations, I've decided to do a PowerPoint and post a YouTube video, and we can all take care of this training in one sitting. So here it is, guys. Chemical exposure in the workplace. My name is Jasper Woods. I'm your safety technician, and I'll be conducting this training. We're going to do it on methanol exposure. As you can see from my picture here, there's a few ways it can get into your system and the different places it can come from. Alright guys, routes of entry and exposure limits. Alright, you have ingestion through the mouth. That's your primary source. Inhalation through the nose, absorption, skin contact, occupational exposure, primarily inhalation. A lethal dose of 100% methanol fuel is ingested is as follows. Less than 1 teaspoon, 4 milliliters for a 1-year infant. 1.5 teaspoons, 6 milliliters for a 3-year-old child. Less than 1/4 of a cup, 10 to 30 milliliters for an adult. And as you can see, the chemical symbol for methane is CH3OH. I have 2 illustrations off to the left. And guys, feel free to stop me anytime you have questions. Now we'll get through the slide and then we'll have a Q&A session afterwards. Routes of entry and exposure limits continue. As you can see, we got our illustration again. The chemical for methane. Our threshold limit value, 8-hour time weighted average. We have 200 parts per million, 250 parts per million. That's the absolute max time exposed to the chemical. Our permissible exposure limit over 8-hour time weighted average, 200 parts per million is the ceiling of 800 parts per million. Allowed time is recommended. Recommended exposure limit, the REL over 10-hour time weighted average, 200 parts per million, and that's by OSHA standard. Recommended time exposed to the chemical. Same, the routes of ingestion through the mouth, which is the primary source. Inhalation through the nose, absorption, skin contact, and occupational exposure, primarily inhalation through your nose. Alright guys, exposure. We're going to get into our surveillance program, mandatory medical requirements. Exposure to formaldehyde in the home can irritate the eyes, nose, throat, and skin. It can also increase breathing problems for people with health conditions like asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder. Guys, formaldehyde is a byproduct of methanol. Methanol is a precursor to create formaldehyde. So, formaldehyde, the immediate dangers to life and health by the niche standards is 20 parts per million. The routes of exposure, inhalation, eye contact, skin contact, ingestion. Inhalation, highly irritating to upper airway. Eye contact, irritation in eyes between 0.05 and 0.5 parts per million. Skin contact exposure can cause dermatitis. Ingestion, 30 milliliters of 37% can cause death. So you want to be real careful with this, guys. You don't want to play with this stuff. You make sure we have names on this stuff. If you pour it in something, label it if you're not going to use it immediately. Surveillance program, mandatory medical requirements continue. Medical and occupational. Elicit information on prior exposure. Respiratory history. Comprehensive review of respiratory system and medical history and exposure to pulmonary irritants. Skin disorders. Skin irritation, documented skin sensitivity, dermatologic disorders. History of atopic or allergic diseases. Obtain history of. Use of disease questionnaires. Comparing results detects deterioration. Each route of exposure should have testing done by a qualified physician. Surveillance program, mandatory medical requirements contain mucosa of eyes and airways. Examining physician should be alert to irritation and a speculum exam of Nasal mucosa may help assess irritation changes. The pulmonary system, conventional respiratory exam. Routine pulmonary function testing required once every year for exposed people over the time-weighted average limit. Skin, physicians should be alert to dermal irritation of sensitization, and skin testing for sensitivity should not be used as routine screening tests. Additional testing mechanism, where additional testing is covered under standard for occupational exposure. Emergency exams should be directed at organ systems most likely to be impacted. Alright guys, here we're going to talk about CO2. CO2 is important in our life. Our indoor air quality standard CO2 levels and monitoring. At 350 parts per million, that's ambient levels, like outside temperature, room temperature. That's the temperature in the room that you're in. That's your ambient temp. Alright guys, under 600 ppm, the occupant complaints diminish. So under 600 ppm is comfortable, is good ventilation, good breathing system, and that you can breathe pretty good. Above 1000 ppm, the HVAC system effectiveness needs to be evaluated. That's when people start to complain about having headaches and skin irritations. That means something going on with we have bad air quality in our building. CO2 is a result of human metabolism. We create CO2 naturally. It's part of the human nature. It is natural. Concentrations above 1.5%. Loss of mental acuity noted. Moderate to high levels cause headaches and fatigue. So if you're feeling headache and fatigue and you go to the same building daily, day in and day out, it might be something to that. It might not just be you. It might be something going on with the building. If too many people start feeling the same way, we can have that looked at. Alright guys, so high CO2 levels equals bad air quality. Lower CO2 levels equals good ventilation. Anzin Ashray provides guidance for acceptable ventilation. Alright guys, that's the end of our presentation. This is references where we got our references for this presentation. Alright, now I'm going to open it up for questions and answers, and I'll answer all questions that you have, do my best, and if I don't know the answer, I'll get it to you by the end of the day. I'll find the right person to get the answer from. And this is our interactive session. Thank you.